Oh, welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. This is episode 15, and we are back, and we are better than ever. With me, as always, Kelvin and Hobby. Kelvin, say hi, buddy.
Hey, what's up? And really excited to be back talking about fantasy football. Got a lot of really cool things. I'm excited about your exciting event you got going on right now. And we're about to dive into, I guess, here shortly, right?
Yeah, so just to kind of give you a breakdown of what's going on here behind the scenes. I've got an actual draft that's taken place in which I've got the 101 picking in approximately 25 seconds. As you can see, I'm queued up with Christian McCaffrey. That's my no-brainer, and we'll have lots of time between that pick and what's going on. So without further ado, you know what? I've missed saying, welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. It's been so long since I've had that opportunity to say it. It's been bugging me forever. I got this draft pick. We know what we're doing with McCaffrey, but speaking of McCaffrey and running backs, let's cue it up right off the get-go with running backs. And right off the top, the big news story of the day, what seems like Leonard Fournette signing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you got for us there, Calvin?
So Leonard Fournette getting cut by, maybe we should start with him getting cut by Jacksonville. What in the world they're thinking? I mean, obviously the relationship there has been difficult for a little while. I kind of thought with some of the changes in the front office and the different things there that he might be getting a fresh start. And, you know, he proved a lot of things this last season. He was able to stay healthy for the whole season, and he caught a lot of passes. And that was my biggest knock on Fournette heading into 2019 in my write-up that I did before the 2019 season. And we talked a number of times about how many targets he was getting. And sure, like you can look at behind the numbers and maybe he didn't turn every single one of those targets into a ton of production, but he did get a lot of catches. And if you're in a PPR league, his biggest knock is he didn't get in the end zone. It was basically him and DJ Chark, and there wasn't a lot of goal line opportunities for him because Jacksonville was terrible outside of the exciting Gardner Minshew, of course. That's not going to be a problem in Tampa Bay. And Bruce Arians has been saying all offseason for anyone to listen that what he was looking for is a running back who could stay on the field all three downs. He's been saying that loud and clear. He has never been wanting to hand this job over to Ronald Jones. That, to me, has been a mistake that every analyst has been making. Maybe not every analyst, but a lot of analysts have been making. It's been very clear he doesn't want to do that. He drafted Keyshawn Vaughn with the idea that, like, hey, maybe this guy can turn into a three-down back. Obviously, that's not what we're expecting. He brought in LaShawn McCoy to kick the tires there, to see if anything was happening. And then I think he had kind of got to the point where he's like, all right, well, this is just the best that I've got. Maybe this is all I can do. And then into his lap falls Leonard Fournette, and they capitalized on it. And he's going to have a lot of scoring opportunities. I expect for the touchdowns to be a lot better than they were. And if he can come anywhere close to the kind of production or the kind of opportunity that he got in terms of carries and targets, and he's going to be really exciting. I have him as my Dynasty RB14 now after today's news.
So I'm just going to pull this up here real quick. And if I lose you here, I apologize. We're talking Leonard Fournette. You got me still?
Yeah.
It's going to be a pain in the butt. I'm just going to try and share my screen again here. That might be easier. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, I've got him right in that same rank where he's sitting about that 12 to 14. If you're looking at a running back in that kind of, let's say, end of round 3, beginning of round 4, I think that's kind of the sweet spot for Leonard Fournette, even with the Bucs. If you liked him before, you'll like him now. There's going to be a little bit less of the ball touching for him. He's not going to get the volume he did in Jacksonville. That's going to be tough to duplicate no matter what. However, last year he showed the ability that he can catch the ball. He got involved in the passing game a little bit more. We know Tom Brady likes to dump that ball off to the back, so I think you might actually see potentially Fournette get more involved in the passing game right now. We kind of joked in the camp after watching Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn trying to catch the ball. It wasn't pretty there for a couple of days. Apparently Ronald Jones started getting it on day 3 or 4. But like you said, Bruce Arians, he takes no shit from nobody. It's his way or the highway, and you don't perform, you're out of there. If you fumble that ball, you're out of there. and they're going to want to pound that rock. They've got two outside guys in Evans and Godwin. They've got Fournette now to pound in the middle. They've got multiple tight ends that they can go with: O.J. Howard, Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate. They've got options there, and this may be the Sans Randy Moss days with the Patriots. This may be the best cast of offensive players that Tom Brady's ever played with.
I think it definitely is. And you bring up a really good point about Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians is a guy who, if you just look back at his career over when he was in Arizona, and Arizona had they brought in a guy who everybody considered a washed-up quarterback. You knew him well. Right there in Oakland, named Carson Palmer. I'm sure you thought Carson Palmer was the worst quarterback of all time when he was there in Oakland. And then he shows up. Bruce Arians turns him into a guy who he was a very good fantasy quarterback for us, very productive, threw for over 4,000 yards at a time where that was, a lot more difficult to do. And David Johnson was a really good running back for him during that time. You talk about the opportunities. Once Fournette has a chance to get in there and get acclimated to the system, which as a veteran he's going to be able to do as well as anybody there. The opportunities legitimately could be there. Like, he could have 300 touches this season, and I don't think that would be that big of a shot.
So I kind of seen a cool little thing here. We never thought we'd see the day where it was trade Kamara, cut Leonard Fournette, and signed Joe Mixon. And we've kind of seen a little bit of that going on here the last couple of days. Alvin Kamara, he's kind of got the whole, I'm going to hold out. I'm going to get an epidural because I'm having a baby. I don't know. Apparently this is a common thing, but it's not really a common thing. I wish Jeff was here to kind of guide us through this whole epidural epidemic in the National Football League. So he had that situation going on. I think contract talks kind of went south. Now I think they're back on. Joe Mixon got paid. And Joe Mixon, the good thing about Joe Mixon is he always said from the get-go that he wants to be paid as a top 7 running back. So he did not go, I want to be a top 2 running back. I want to be a top 3 running back. He kind of priced himself right where he should be. So you knew the Bengals would get something done because they did sign Gio Bernard to a very friendly deal as well, where they paid Bernard probably more than what his value was. I'm going to pull this up here right now just so everyone can see. We're coming up here in about 8 picks. But just to kind of keep on talking on this. And then on the flip side, we've got Dalvin Cook. Has Dalvin Cook even practiced yet? There's some real reason to be concerned with Dalvin Cook if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan and a Dalvin Cook owner. What do you got there? If you had to choose between those backs, how you got them ranked?
Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon?
All 4 of them. We got Fournette probably a little bit lower than the other 3, but.
Yeah, okay, so I'll tell you exactly. I literally just went through this this week. So I am, believe it or not, I've got Joe Mixon higher on my rankings than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know that's going to shock you. I have Joe Mixon as my number 4 running back. The contract did a lot for him. And Mixon has all the talent in the world. And I think this Cincinnati Bengals offense is being underrated by everybody right now. I think the Cincinnati Bengals have an outside shot of running the most plays in the NFL. They were really good, really high on that list last year. And that was with Andy Dalton as their quarterback. They bring in, at the very worst in his rookie season, you would be thinking he's at least a competent quarterback. He's probably a very good quarterback in Joe Burrow. The contract thing is solved. That was the only thing you were really worried about with Joe Mixon, is whether or not he was going to be around for a while. Now he looks locked in to be the back there for a little while as Joe Burrow grows. That offense is going to run through him being probably the second most targeted option on that entire team. So he's going to have opportunities running the ball. He's going to have opportunities out of the backfield as a receiver. That's going to allow him to be game script independent. It doesn't matter if they're winning. It doesn't matter if they're losing. He's going to be on the field, and he's going to have an opportunity to produce. I would actually rank Alvin Kamara behind him The epidural thing does scare me. The fact that he doesn't have a contract does worry me a little bit. He is a smaller running back. So when health issues start coming up, that is reason for concern. He's never been a high volume type running back. He's had to be very efficient on his touches and score a lot of fantasy points per touch to be very effective. So I'm actually a little bit lower on Kamara, but I would put Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, and then I'd have Fournette. But that's, all those guys in the top 14 for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I've got Mixon probably because of the whole contract situation playing out the way it did. I've got Mixon now up there at the top of my spot. Here we go. We are here with our second pick. Aaron Jones just went to. I had queued up. I'm probably, where do I want to go here with the 102 with the 212?
Is that Godwin? Chris Godwin is still on the board?
Yeah, it is.
That seems like a pretty good. Wow, so running back is really gone off the board fast, huh?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to tap into the running back position here as well. I'm probably going to go with Chris Godwin to get that wide receiver 1 locked up, and then oh boy, you know what? I might just double tap wide receiver here and go Godwin and Galladay.
Galladay is. Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I go back and forth on Galladay and DJ Moore all the time. Certainly, this is redraft, so man, yeah. Because your best running backs are what?
James Conner, Todd Gurley, David Johnson. Yeah, I got to make sure I'm paying attention because I'll run out of time if I'm not. Le'Veon Bell, it drops off here. But I think I can go in the 4th round. Yeah. I can get a David Montgomery possibly here. Oh, we're going to bring in RS Smooth there. We're going to bring Roberto in here.
All right.
I think Galladay is the pick here. I think I like the idea of Galladay going with Godwin here.
Yeah, I like that.
So, Roberto, we kind of got a little bit of a live draft going on here.
There we go. Hello.
Hey, Robert, how you doing, bud?
How's it going?
What's up?
How's it going? How's everybody in this beautiful evening?
We're surviving. I got a little bit of a draft going on and a podcast at the same time, so we're kind of trying to do double duties here.
All right.
We were just actually finishing up our little talk here about we're 4 running backs, Kamara, Mixon, Cook, and Fournette, and how we kind of had them ranked. Now, based on talent alone, Kamara I'd have above Mixon, but that contract situation and that epidural, which they say is normal, I'm not 100% sure that that's a good thing to be having already and at his age for his joint pain already. So there is a bit of a red flag with Kamara. I still love Kamara. I've still got him as my number 2 running back in redraft, but in Dynasty, that security is nice to have. I still have to go Kamara, Mixon, and then Cook and Fournette. It's a toss-up for me right now because I do not know what the future holds for Dalvin Cook.
I'd personally still take Cook. But go ahead. Yeah.
You like Dalvin Cook over Fournette?
Yeah, definitely. Don't get me wrong. Fournette just landed in a perfect situation. Gotta love the landing spot. I've probably been one of the bigger fans of Fournette. I know he's probably been hated on the most in terms of these top tier running backs the last few years. But I like the talent. I think he's still a pretty good damn running back. And the situation, Tampa's perfect. But I'm still a big fan of Dalvin Cook. I think they get that situation resolved.
Yeah, eventually they have to. I was talking about this the other night when I was on a show there. Joe Mixon, he kind of kept himself in a good price range there. The Bengals have kind of tried to bring in bodies, Rodney Anderson, Tre'Davious Williams, Gio Bernard, they've kept along there. The Vikings know what they got in Madison there. He's come in, he's done a good job as well when Dalvin Cook's missed time. The Saints have really not brought anyone in behind Kamara. Latavius Murray and Ty Montgomery aren't exactly guys I'm too worried about taking over that job. And then now the Buccaneers' backfield is an absolute mess when you consider you got Fournette, you got Ogunbowale, you've got Vaughn, you've got Rojo, you got LaShawn McCoy. Now, obviously, Fournette is the best back of the bunch. There's no doubt about it. But I do see somewhat of a running back by committee approach that could be used there for Bruce Arians, because Bruce Arians is a no-nonsense coach, and if you're not performing, he'll get you off the field.
Yeah, no doubt. It's really funny. You know, you said that about Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, and like the tiebreaker was the contract situation, coach, and like just like Leonard Fournette. I don't even think his contract is signed right now, but yeah, we feel better about that than Dalvin Cook. And yeah, honestly, I think you're right. Like I think that's the right argument to make there, because is Dalvin Cook. Is he going to play this season? I guess he seems like he's maintained that he is, but as I kind of speculated in my NFC North preview that's available on DynastyVipers.com, company man here. He get dinged up a little bit. We know he can deal with injuries, and if he's thinking about his next contract, if I'm Dalvin Cook, I probably am not taking that shot to get on the field next week the way I might have if I was wrapped up for the next 3 years. So does this year become something that, isn't quite as good as we hope? And is he going to be trying to produce on, team number 2 next season if they can't get him wrapped up? So I don't know. It would mean a lot for him to sign an extension a la Joe Mixon.
I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think redraft is something completely different. I mean, for Dynasty, I always go with who do I feel is the most talented. And I obviously feel Cook is just more talented than Leonard Fournette, and that's not disparaging, Leonard Fournette and what he's done, but I just think Cook is more talented, proven to be, when healthy, a top-tier running back. Maybe he misses a couple. I don't see him missing the whole year. I think this contract does get done and resolved at some point. He's still a young running back. Yeah, that is the fear, that with him, he has had a history of injuries. But, like Coach was talking about with Fournette, though, he goes to a backfield that right now is just a bunch of guys on the bunch of bodies. They got to clear that up. I do think Fournette's the best one out of that bunch, but you still got McCoy, you still got Rojo, you still got a lot of guys that they're going to have to clear. We need a clearer picture in terms of what his workload is going to be. And, who knows? Maybe he doesn't get that job until midway through this season. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel better about Fournette over Cook, because at least we know Fournette's posted a picture of himself on social media in a Buccaneers jersey. I haven't seen Dalvin Cook post nothing since he's gone kind of MIA in Minnesota. I'm sure he's in the building. And I'm sure social media is just blowing things out of proportion right now. I'm sure he's in there. He's doing his work and everything, but we like to be negative in the social media world, right? I'm about love and, me getting all like my fuzzies with everybody. But, social media and the media outlets in general do not like that positivity, right? So he's probably in there. He's probably doing his work. He's probably chilling there in that beautiful stadium, that practice facility. And we're just here bashing him about, is he going to play or is he not going to play?
Mm-hmm.
He's probably like, this is probably the best chance for him to be healthy come week 1. Which looks like we're actually going to have a week 1, because we're only about 8 days away right now. So
looking good.
It's definitely attribute a little bit of an interesting offseason, probably the most interesting one we've seen in a long time, which is going to be interesting for fantasy owners, because I know we've talked about this in the past, Calvin and I, comparing the I believe it's the 2011 lockout to this COVID, and how offensive points actually went up coming out of the lockout rather than down, because defenses seem to struggle a little bit more than the offenses did coming out of it, which is kind of funny because you think it'd be the other way around. As someone who played football for a good portion of my career, I found it was easier to get the defense to gel. But we've seen that after that lockout, the offensive numbers were probably higher than they've been in a long time. So I guess that's good news for the fantasy owners to see some offensive production coming out of the gate. But there's no guarantee you're going to have player X, Y, or Z come week 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you think about it in terms of this was a normal season, we would be just finishing up last weekend with the most exciting preseason week. We would be just done with week 3. We'd have the, fun for us because we like, bottom of the roster type guys. But, the week 4 would be happening, tomorrow night, I guess? Isn't it usually the Thursday night is when all of the preseason week 4? We'd be wrapping up preseason week 4 tomorrow. So, I mean, think about the excitement. It does feel like things are a little bit like it doesn't quite feel real that we're about to start football. But, yeah, you're right. 8 days next week, this time, we'll be on, Christmas Eve, basically, getting ready to start.
Okay, I got a dilemma here. I 4th round, Leonard Fournette is staring right at me. I went with Christian McCaffrey in the first. I went Golladay and Godwin in the 2nd and 3rd, and there's Leonard Fournette just staring at me, begging me to pick him. I may just throw this draft for a loop here. I may go Leonard Fournette here at this pick at my RB2, and then I'm probably going to turn around and grab linebacker 1 because this is an IDP league as well. Just to throw everyone for a loop and grab Darius Leonard here. So if you're watching, I got to go with this pick here.
Go Fournette.
Yeah, I got it. It's just because we're talking about him on the show. I got to draft him, right?
Yeah. Well,
now I do have.
Let me just say one more thing about Leonard Fournette. I'm gonna say one more thing about Leonard Fournette to make you feel a little bit better. I just pulled up since we were talking about what his opportunity could be in that backfield, and I pulled up 2016. I picked a random year that Bruce Arians was the head coach in Arizona when he had David Johnson. And that was my closest comp. Obviously, Leonard Fournette is not going to be David Johnson. He doesn't have the targets. But just from a carry standpoint, David Johnson had 293 attempts in 2016 in Bruce Arians' offense. He added on 120 targets. Leonard Fournette's not going to get that. But could Leonard Fournette, after what he showed last year, get 90 targets? He could. I mean, this could be a guy who really does have a lot of volume, and there's not a lot of running backs in the league that you can say that about.
And that's the interesting part too, is because Ronald Jones obviously was not going to be their third down back. They already had come out and said that. So Leonard Fournette is snagging those carries. I mean, Rojo, any fantasy value that Ronald Jones has or had is gone because that's all going to Leonard Fournette. But yeah, I mean, they obviously got to look at Fournette, and I know that they weren't impressed with their running backs catching the balls out of the backfield. I remember that tweet not too long ago with a couple guys, including Ronald Jones, dropping passes and Brady looking very upset with them. Fournette proved last year that, hey, I can do that as well. So I definitely think he's going to get a pretty decent workload. It's just how quickly. Is it going to be week 1? I don't know. But he's the best back there.
So it was interesting because we were trying to pick where these landing spots were going to be for Fournette here. And it wouldn't have surprised me the Jaguars brought him back in because, that seems like the most Jaguar thing to do, cut a guy and bring him back in. But we look at New England as an obvious option, and obviously New England kicked the tires there. Tampa Bay was an option, but another option was in the Windy City there, the Chicago Bears, because I don't know what the city expects out of David Montgomery. I've always liked what he's been able to do, and I think he's a viable back there. I don't think they needed to kick the tires on Fournette at all. The one thing I was praying for is the Rams stayed the heck away from him because Cam Akers is the truth. And I've got Cam Akers. Everyone who knows me knows he's my running back 1 from the rookie class. And if you've seen who I just drafted here, I'm a big believer in Jalen Reagor as the wide receiver 1 in the rookie class. But with him being injured, I went with the 5th round selection of Zach Ertz and locked up that tight end position in this redraft. So I went away from my IDP background here and went with the tight end early in the 5th round, secure that top playing person. One of the things we talked about in a lot of drafts, especially being on that back end, is that taking that tight end in the 2nd round because of value-based drafting and how that unfolds, because you get those running backs, and when you're getting the back end like that pick 11, pick 12, you're getting some questionable not questionable running backs, but they're not the top end guys. And then when you're picking that top end of the 2nd round, if you can get a Kelsey or a Kittle that early, even if it's just a standard PPR kind of league, you're still going to get value based on the position because after the first 5 tight ends go, there's a huge drop off. Kittle, I think Kittle and Kelsey would have both been top 5 wide receivers in PPR last year. So
yeah,
that's a huge advantage for your squads, grabbing those tight ends, even as early as the second. And I'm a guy who's totally against grabbing tight ends that early, but in a PPR type league, like guys like Zach Ertz this year, you've seen what's going on in that Philadelphia receiving core right now. He's definitely worth grabbing in the 5th round, 6th round if he's there, if not the 4th.
Yeah, and I love Rager, but obviously,
if you were going to place a bet on who's going to lead the Eagles in targets this year, it'd be Ertz, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way you have to go right now. Is Ertz is going to lead them in targets. He's got that rapport built in with Carson Wentz, and of course, if Wentz goes down, which he has more often than not, you bring a rookie quarterback in, and besides Jalen Hurts getting Jalen Rager hurt, well, that's a tongue twister because throwing an interception, Rager making the tackle. The security blanket for a rookie quarterback is often that tight end, and especially if it's a veteran tight end like Zach Ertz. So I think Zach Ertz is definitely in line to lead the Eagles in targets this year.
I like the comment here from, is it Shevin? And he's totally right. Leonard Fournette, RB7 last year with only 3 touchdowns. And that was really the story. Like if he added touchdowns last year, we'd be talking about him up closer to being like a first-round pick, I think.
I just think there's a lot of dislike with Fournette for some reason. I mean, this dates back to last year, a few years ago. I mean, they just not the fantasy people are split on. I don't even know if they're even split. I think more dislike him than like him. I like the player, and obviously the fact that he got cut. Those that hated him prior hated him more, and they just don't see this working out for him. So,
well, I think Leonard Fournette is so polarizing that I really want to be a fly on the wall. There's a reason he got cut. I heard that there's that nasty-ass rumor that Leonard Fournette is basically like a bag of dicks. Nobody likes him. He's an absolute prick. Like, I heard there was players saying, hey, get rid of this guy. If this is like Shevin said, if he's an RB7 with only 3 touchdowns last year and the team wants to get rid of you, there's going to be some kind of – and then you get cut, and then your coach comes out and says you're not even worth a 7th-round pick out to the media. We know the Jags are a dysfunctional team.
Yes.
We watch everyone being kicked out of that organization, left, right, and center, all going back to Allen Robinson, who's like, I don't even know why Robinson's out of there, but they've always got rid of their good players. They don't like to win, apparently. So you remember when they played the Pittsburgh Steelers and dominated the Steelers and then went to the AFC Championship? What happened to that team? They did that with Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles took them to the AFC Championship, and they haven't had a sniff since. So if we're torn on Leonard Fournette, he just looks like a villain, doesn't he? Like, you just look at him, he looks like a villain. He's a big man that you just like, you're kind of scared of him, but you don't like him at the same time just by looking at him. It's
I mean, in my opinion, he wasn't cut because he's a bad football player.
No, there's a lot more to that. It's more than 4.2 million too.
Yeah, there's a lot more going on over there in Jacksonville. I have no idea what they're doing, what their path is. I guess this year is just tank for Trevor Lawrence probably. But I'm just so Leonard Fournette can play football in Tampa Bay. I mean, that's just, if there's one spot I'm a Bears fan. I would have taken him. And that's not that I don't believe in Montgomery, but Montgomery had last year to show something. I wasn't too impressed. I did like the college tape, and I know he lost a lot of weight, got in much better shape this year, and obviously he's dealing with that injury, so who knows how long he's going to be out. But if there was a spot fantasy-wise that Fournette could have gone to, the best spot, that was probably Tampa.
Yeah.
There was very little spots. There's very little spots that would have been better for him. Like New England, which was interested. There's too many There's as many running backs in New England as there is in Tampa, minus the fact that there's nothing good in either of them. But the offense, I think, is better in Tampa, and the quarterback in Tampa isn't going to be taking those rushing touchdowns away from you.
Yeah. I was trying to make the connection with Chicago because the offensive coordinator last year with with Jacksonville is now the QB coach there in Chicago, and that made me kind of wonder. And then you also have Nick Foles up there, so it kind of made you wonder if that might be a possibility.
I thought it was.
What's going on, boys? I love the chatter so far. I had to watch my Big Brother show, so now I'm ready to rock and roll on this Fournette talk, though.
This show's turned into like the whole Fournette power hour here right now. There's a little bit of drafting. So I'm going to throw this one to you guys here now. So I'm on the clock. I've gone with Fournette and McCaffrey as my running backs. I got Godwin and Golladay as my wide receivers with Zach Ertz as my tight end. So I've got a very balanced roster, which tends to be my tendency anyway. But I'm looking here, and there's David Montgomery for an RB3. He's an option. Devin Singletary is an RB3. I could go and get Drew Brees and lock up my quarterback position. What do we else got here? I love me some Tyler Boyd. Let's not kid ourselves. I think he's definitely – anyway, I've got to make a decision here quick.
Well, I will say this. Montgomery didn't prove himself last year, but the fact that the Bears basically wanted nothing to do with Fournette, Matt Nagy came out today and said, we like what we have. And that's basically David Montgomery. So he's going to get a full workload once he's ready to rock. So, I mean, that's probably not a bad pick.
Okay, so I went with Drew Brees here just to buy myself a little bit of time. So I got my quarterback locked up. So now it's whether I want to go RB3 or tight end, or RB3 or wide receiver 3. And I'm
or IDP, right?
Yeah, I think I got until the 8th round to make that choice. No IDPs come off the board yet. So I'm definitely looking here. David Montgomery basically versus Tyler Boyd. It's kind of where I'm leaning.
Or you can go Ronald Jones.
Yeah. Now, the one thing I will say is we know in these drafts that the running back position dries up. If you don't get in on it, you're going to get left behind. And so that's where I'm definitely considering David Montgomery as probably the pick here. He's probably the safest one. Gives you that consistency there. Has bye weeks opposite of everyone else. So we're going to lock in David Montgomery, RB3.
You're going to get a massive workload.
Yeah, he'll get a massive workload. What about you? Got it.
Yeah, go ahead, Chevin. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Chevin?
yes, sir. Chev Boyardee, Chevin, whatever you want to call me. I'm here for the boys. But yeah, I mean, it can't get any worse than that offense, right? That offense looked absolutely piss poor. They had a tight end that didn't even get over 100 yards last year. So I mean, I feel like they want to run the ball. They still want to still hang with that defense, let them do their thing, and just run that clock out and just ride the waves. I mean, especially at quarterback right now, who knows who it's going to be? I mean, there's so much inconsistency. And me being a Bears fan, I was actually supposed to do the Back Row Bears show tonight, but my buddy Dave actually fell through a roof, so we're going to have to postpone that. But, I mean, it's just you got to find a quarterback that can seal it up, man, and we're looking for that. But David Montgomery should get a massive workload, and I'm excited for what he's going to do this year.
Well, things can't be any worse in Chicago, right? They either bring Nick Foles in, who swings that big dick around and gets the team back on the right page, or Trubisky goes, hey, you know what? Gets a fire lit under his ass and comes out and performs. It can't be any worse than last year. I don't expect, because they do have a premier wide receiver in Allen Robinson, who, like Fournette, nobody seems to give him that respect that he deserves. Allen Robinson is probably my favorite wide receiver, and he gets no respect. So, and then David Montgomery, the workload is there. Tariq Cohen is not going to affect David Montgomery. Tariq Cohen is Tariq Cohen. He's got his own role with the team, and that's what he is. You know
should, though. He's good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The only thing that I think you can give Cohen more of is those touches out of the slot. Utilize him more as a wide receiver.
Yep.
I will tell you, as a Bears fan, Cohen is good for his role, but you can't overutilize him. I mean, so like when Nagy comes out and says we like our running back room, I definitely know he's not talking about Ryan Nall. So it's David Montgomery and David Montgomery's show in that backfield. And I will admit, I mean, he wasn't that great last year, but you gotta put some blame on that offensive line. Obviously, the quarterback play. I mean, the offense was just a disaster. I mean, I can't even believe Allen Robinson did what he did last year, considering how that offense was running.
Is there only a highlight receiver with trash quarterbacks in Allen Robinson?
I mean, I feel bad for you guys.
DeAndre Hopkins gets all this credit for what he's played with in his career, but when you say Blake Bortles is your best quarterback you've ever played with,
That is tough.
Say something. When you can make Blake Bortles look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't forget about Anthony Miller there in Chicago too,
Yeah.
man. He was jumping off the screen to me last season. I know we talked about him during the 2019 season shows that we did, Coach, and just this offseason, there's been nothing but praise for him. He's a guy that I think could really make a step forward as long as there is some sort of competent quarterback play. And with a couple of Chicago Bears fans here, I can't help but ask you guys are obviously more in tune with the city and all that, but when I did every season, I do an off season where I look through all the off season moves, quarterback changes, offensive coordinator changes, personnel changes, the draft, whatever. And the Bears had, in my opinion, the most disappointing of all 32 NFL teams, the worst off season. I'm curious, as Chicago fans, I'm sure there's a lot more optimism there. How do you feel about how the offseason went and what you guys did?
Yeah, so I love going out and getting Robert Quinn. I think that definitely helps that defense for sure. Getting somebody that can line up across and get more than 4 sacks. Floyd only had 4 sacks and 3 sacks in his time with Khalil Mack. So I think Robert Quinn's going to bring some production, and you're getting good talent, I think, from quarterback. I'm hoping that we can get something just reliable. You got Allen Robinson, who's going to get targets fed to him. We have Anthony Miller, who was injured most of the season last year and still seemed to put up a decent amount of points. So I'm optimistic. I think the Packers had the worst draft, so I can sit on that. I think the Bears bringing in 45 tight ends this year really hurt my my Bear fanage, though.
And I actually, their offseason was more, picking up Robert Quinn, like you said, was just excellent for the defense. That defense is going to be good. They're going to be top 5 like they have been the last few years. So I'm not concerned with the defense. They just need adequate quarterback play. And really, you have skills at the skill positions in essence. Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller. Those guys can play. I loved drafting Cole Kmet. I think he's going to be a good one. I was a fan of him at Notre Dame, so I love that draft pick. So that just adds another weapon, and it can't get any worse than last year for Mitch.
Okay, you say that, but they bring
an
offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator they bring in is Bill Lazor, who, if you look at his history, he had a season where he was the coordinator for a team where they put up the least amount of yards in the NFL. How does he continue to get jobs as an offensive coordinator? And when I think about the quarterback play, first of all, that's not a guy you bring in that's going to help Mitch Trubisky, in my opinion, or you bring in Nick Foles, and I don't really understand that move other than you've got his offensive coordinator from last year in. And you combine all of that with there were really good quarterbacks available on the market in Cam Newton, certainly as a guy that you could have brought in, and even Jameis Winston, as 26-year-old Jameis Winston, you could have potentially paired him with a guy, maybe a better offensive coordinator. It's more about some of the things that they missed on, and really that Bill Lazor hire is the thing that has me just I don't understand that. That's
to be honest. Titles are one thing. Bill Lazor's not calling plays. It's Matt Nagy that's calling the plays on offense. Those hires were all meant. John DeFilippo, that was to help Mitch Trubisky, and they basically said it. They broke him down this offseason, footwork and all this. They say all reports from camp is the throwing motion is different. So I think with they everything that they did in the offseason focused on Mitch, on trying to get him better. I admit I hated the Nick Foles trade. Giving up a 4th-round pick for Nick Foles.
Paid him $21 million.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, they didn't want to wait on Cam, and I know that during that time when they got Foles, you still had the whole Cam injury, the shoulder people were concerned about. So I don't blame them. I guess they could have waited, but I just don't get why they decided to go after Nick Foles, why they felt that was the answer to help the QB room.
I mean, the Bears quarterback has never thrown in history 30 touchdowns, and one has never thrown for 4,000 yards. So, I mean, quarterback play for the Bears history is just – I'm going to talk about it one time on my podcast whenever we get it done, but we had the chance to get two solid players in Patrick Mahomes and Watson, and we didn't do it. That's my last time talking about it, but
I can't.
I mean, those guys are just absolutely ridiculous, and we passed them up.
I get nauseous every time I think of that.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Who are we going with
was
here?
Was that a very click there?
Well, I did it. I just caused a shit show here. I just took a linebacker in a half tap point per tackle league, so that's fantastic. That's going to cause a little stir up here. I was running out of time here, thinking about all the players. Preston Williams just went, who I had my eyes on. I'm thinking maybe Henry Ruggs might be a good flex option here. Running back, a wide receiver 3. John Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs is kind of the guy I'm leaning towards. Nicole Hardman's there. I'm not a big fan of him.
Later goes Anthony Miller. He's been the talk of camp.
Yeah, you know what?
I like
I got to let the Raider homerisms come out here in me. Lamont's going to give me crap for picking a linebacker that early. But
well, Tyrell Williams just went on IR, right? So, Ruggs is going to get some volume.
Plus, it's a flex position. I'm just waiting for the gears to be coming in the chat room because someone's got to be that first guy to grab a defensive player. And DS. So this year, you got to take it out. You have to draft an actual defense, not just a players. But you have to take the team and whatnot. And Lamont's just kind of pointing out here that it's a full point for a solo tackle, and you get return yards. So Hardman would have been more valuable as an option there, but. I go in with my gut. You know what? You got to draft guys you like on your team. So that's kind of where Ruggs comes in as that flex option. And the other thing I'm kind of monitoring here is I've already got myself in a bit of a bind with Godwin and McCaffrey with week 13 buys. That's going to be first week of playoffs, so I better secure that bye week in the playoffs because that's going to be big. But now I might want to avoid that week 13 situation the rest of the way.
What is the redraft, right?
This is redraft.
You might trade them. It's all right.
It's definitely an option.
You might trade one of them. So
that is true.
Don't concern yourself with buys just yet.
No, I'm always thinking buys. I'm always thinking my team's going to make the playoffs too. So we'll see how that always works out. But it was kind of interesting.
You did the most important thing. You got Christian McCaffrey. That's what was it, like 85% of the teams?
Yeah.
85% of the teams with McCaffrey last year made the playoffs or something like that. So
it's ridiculous.
I guess I better remove that screen while I'm Googling players here. I'm putting on my cube list. Especially if I know at Pod there, he's been watching the YouTube as the draft's going on.
So since Kevin decided to bring up that Mahomes and Watson, I decided I have to just throw this out one time since it's on a pod now, a live stream, and that's how in the world the Bears decided not to even entertain the thought of Deshaun Watson. Didn't even have a conversation with the guy. Is beyond me. So I needed to throw that out there.
And we traded up to get Trubisky. So that's the real kicker right there, huh?
You know what? I don't necessarily hate Trubisky. You know what I mean? He is definitely the scapegoat in Chicago. There's no doubt about it. You know what? It's like a goalie in hockey. When you win, the quarterback gets way too much praise. And I think when you lose, generally speaking, the quarterback gets way too much blame. But that comes with the position. Much like a goalie in hockey. You get the win, you're probably, everyone's patting you on the back. You get the loss. You could be 1-0, but you gave up that goal. My kid's a goalie. And it's funny because you can always pick out the goalie parents, right? They're the guy at the other end of the rink by themselves watching in the corner. Every time. You can pick that goalie. That's me. And it's hilarious because everyone's like, oh, he gave up a goal. Well, you didn't see the fact that it was like a 3-on-0, and the other 5 players are still cherry-picking at the other end. You know what I mean? No matter what the responsibility is, same with the quarterback. The quarterback can only do so much. If that line's failing him, then he can't do as much as he's supposed to be able to do. And I think the thing with Chicago right now, your guys' biggest pickup, I guess, so to speak, is the return of the king himself. Akeem Hicks is going to be back.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when he went down, that defense went down. When he went down, it's double, triple team Khalil Mack all day long. When Hicks is in that lineup, you can't do that because Hicks is going to burn you. He's going to give you that pressure up the middle. And there's nothing worse for a quarterback than getting put on his ass coming straight up at you. You know what I mean? If you get the outside like Mack coming from the blitz, you can step up in the pocket. You can bootleg. There's options for you. When that's coming straight at you on a bull rush and a man that big with bad intentions is coming for you, there's not a whole lot you can do. So that Bears, you talked about Robert Quinn coming in. You talk about Khalil Mack not getting that double team. Akeem Hicks is the difference maker on that defense.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, they gave up, I think it was like 70-something yards when he was in the game. And then once he got hurt, it went up to like 105 rushing yards per game. So, I mean, just in the rushing game, it plays a huge factor as well. So, I mean, you got it right. I mean, he's a leader on that defense. He's somebody that's vocal. He's somebody that can get that energy going. So you're definitely right on that, Matt.
Yeah, Hicks was a huge loss when they last year. And on your point on Mitch that you like Mitch, I will say
love him. I like him.
No, I know. I will say that there were some things. There's some talent there. I mean, I understand why they drafted him, and there were a lot of GMs that were quoted as saying they liked him. There's a lot of people that had him number one on their board going into that draft. But he regressed considerably last year compared to the year prior. I mean, he really inability to read the defense. He would just lock on to one wide receiver. His accuracy issues are real. There's just certain routes that he struggles with. And you hope that those are things. I think even at the end of the last season, one of the Matt Nagy was quoted as saying he needs to read a defense better. He needs to start that homework now. And hopefully he's done that. Hopefully, and that's the reason they brought all these, like we were talking about, John DeFilippo and Laser and all these guys. It was just all with the thought of trying to help Mitch get better at this. And I don't know if it's bad that he needs, like, you have to put this much help into trying to get the most out of this kid, but he's got some things that you do like. He does have a strong arm. He's athletic. He can get out of the pocket. So there's things there. And to be honest, I'd rather roll with him than Nick Foles. There's just nothing that I think Nick Foles is going to provide right now that's going to help this team offensively or get them scoring more points. It's just not going to happen. I think that their best chance is with Mitch, but I just got to see it now. I mean, last year he really destroyed my confidence and my hope for him.
I mean, in the last 4 seasons, Nick Foles hasn't even played 8 games.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's only played, I think it was like 1 season over 10 games, or 2 seasons over 10 games. So, I mean, that's just crazy.
And I'm rooting for Mitch because he's a good kid.
Well, and my thing with Mitch is I'm not going to say he's in that Mahomes ability to scramble. I'm not going to say he's in that same ability as Deshaun Watson. But where he's most successful is when he's bootlegging, when he's running, when he's picking up yards with his legs. And last year, it was almost like they're like, you know what, we want to make you a pocket passer and keep you in the pocket rather than use him to his advantage and get him outside. And you've seen his first year, or not last year, but the season before, when he was able to use his legs as a weapon, he was valuable. The Bears made a run for it and everything like that comes with it. Now, when you keep him in the pocket, it's almost like he's stuck. He's like, I can only throw to the left side of the field. That's kind of where he gets to when you stick him in the pocket. But if you can get him to get outside, he's got your value. As a quarterback, you're going to pick up those rushing yards for fantasy, but he's going to pick up passing yards because he's really good at that scramble drill, kind of like Mahomes light, so to speak, right? You're not going to beat Mahomes getting one of those little reach behind kind of passes, but when he's allowed to move and use his legs, he's way more effective than not. And if a coordinator, Nagy's supposed to be a smart offensive coordinator, and I don't know why he got away from this. But no one's giving Nagy as much shit as they're giving Trubisky.
He called
about
some
the failures. Yeah, he
He
called
got
the plays.
being from Chicago sports radio.
Oh yeah.
We were and as a Bear fan, I was upset with a lot of decisions Nagy was making, a lot of the calls. It was just a whole lot of bad on offense last year. That's the reason I'm saying it's going to be hard for them to be any worse.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Trubisky played 15 games last year and threw 17 touchdowns. It's not good.
You think that's bad?
All right, so I am
Not
on
ideal.
the clock again. I'm on the clock again. These are my options here. I got 40 seconds to pick. I'm not even sure what round I'm in anymore.
9.
This is the 10th round. 10th round. I think that's a good value for Adrian Peterson in the 10th round right now. Is that not? What do you guys think? 10th round, Adrian Peterson, running back 4. We're now in the bench filling out process. So Marlon Mack, I do like him too. I think he's going to have surprisingly more touches than we're getting.
I think he is.
credit for.
Honestly, even Kerryon Johnson, I'd probably think about just in terms of what he could provide for you this year. If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's certainly got the ability.
Well, I took Adrian Peterson because I was running out of time. I'm kind of I might just take a DST here right now and get that taken care of because they seem to score considerable points at 275. The Baltimore Ravens seem like a fantastic value there.
Yeah, I've been picking them up everywhere. But team defense.
I've been lucky to take the Minnesota Vikings. What do you think about that, Coach? Do you think they got a chance of being with them picking up
Nagaku? Their secondary is going to kill them. Their secondary is going to kill them still, right? Your back end has to match your front end, or your front end has to match your back end. And yeah, there might get that pressure on, but if you give those DBs too much time, they're going to be starting a rookie there in Gladney on the one side. They basically let 3 starting corners walk last year. So McKenzie, Waynes, and Xavier Rhodes are all gone from that team. If you're playing, that's a team you want to throw the ball on. Anytime you got a wide receiver, that might be a time to go and stack the quarterback wide receiver combination, especially DFS, against the Vikings defense. Now, if you have a weak offensive line, Nagaku and Donnell Hunter are going to absolutely eat you alive.
the linebackers are good? I mean, there just seems like a lot of talent at the different levels on that team.
My God, that Xavier Rhodes thing, that is just befuddling. What happened to that guy?
You know what? It's funny you mention that because he was a shutdown corner. You know, Devontae Adams, he's shutting Devontae Adams down. Devontae Adams goes, this is the best corner I've ever faced. And now look at Xavier Rhodes. He gets dummied by who knows who. Now, all of that, we got Mr. What's-his-face down there in the Bayou who cries over everything. And Mike Thomas, that's who I'm talking about, Michael Thomas, who cries about everything. All Devontae Parker goes is, yeah, congratulations, you're a good player, but hey, I lit up Stephon Gilmore, which he's not wrong. He absolutely did light up Gilmore multiple times, but Mike Thomas seems to think this is offensive to him in some way, shape, and form.
Okay.
Maybe the Bayou guy can make some. Here we go. I'm trying to get.
Hang on.
Poking him right now.
Yeah. All right. Look. Now it's so funny the timing of that because to me the responses on Twitter were hilarious because it was right in the middle of the Last Dance documentary, and everyone is just oohing and eyeing over like Michael Jordan's competitiveness and like, oh, he wasn't the best ping pong player in his locker room, so he bought a ping pong table, and oh, that's why he's the GOAT. And then Michael Thomas claps back on Devontae Parker, and people act like he's a crybaby. And like, no, like he's got that same level of I'm the best. Don't disrespect me. I'm going to be the guy that, like, I am the number one wide receiver. And if you say anything to the contrary, I'm going to say something about it. If you think that Michael Jordan would not be petty on social media, if social media had been a big deal in the 90s, you are out of your mind.
Oh, my God, Michael Jordan was petty as hell. Love Mike, but he was petty as hell. And don't get me wrong, I love Michael Thomas. And it's okay. You can admit, look, he's got a little cry baby in him, but most of those guys that are at that level, that's what they are. Everything is offensive. They take anything. You talk about another guy, oh, you better talk about me. So yeah. I don't blame. I still love Michael Thomas. I don't blame any. I don't blame him for anything.
You know, it's funny. These guys got nothing on pettiness when it comes to me, though. So I've told this story 100 times, and I'll tell it on the Dynasty Vipers how petty I actually am. When I got into the Scott Fishbowl 7 years and years ago, which is like 4 years ago now, I went in as a fan. Okay, I went in as a fan, and I sat there and I drafted, and it was like Matt Donnelly, fan. That irked me. Having the word fan next to my name irked me. We sat there. I watched guys. I was drafting with people in my division, and it's like Billy Bob, Roto World, or Billy Bob this. I'm like, how do they get an affiliation? So then, of course, you do what you do. You creep them on Twitter. And it's like 18 years old. This is my first article I've ever written. I'm like, how are you an analyst? How are you? I've been doing this for 20-some years, and I'm a fan? So then I went crying, like I do, because I did my best Michael Thomas impression. I did my best Michael Thomas impression. I go to B. Martzy, who, by the way, you have to watch Going for Two, because he's on there this week, and it's absolutely hilarious because he's not a very emotional speaker like I am, right? It's very with him. He's not even going to watch this, so I can take a shot at him all I want. But it's like, so I go, hey, we got to get this site started. We got to get it started. I can't be a fan no more. He kind of gives me the old, what do you mean? I said, I'm in the Scott Fishbowl, but I'm a fan. We need to start the website. Because we've talked about it. And we've talked about it for years. So, you know what I mean? We've been like, yeah, we should really do this. Yeah, but no one's got the time. It's like starting the podcast. You guys have all done podcasts. Like, yeah, we've got this great idea for podcast. And then it sits there for like 4 years because no one actually wants to do the work.
Right.
So that's kind of where the website came from. So we fired up the website. Well, if you've ever seen 40-year-old guys doing technology and trying to build a website for the first time, it was painful. Like, I mean, neither one of us are smart people. And I'll be the first one to say that. So we finally got this up and running. We self-taught, but then the first thing I do, we get the website, I send Scott a quick DM. I said, hey, can I put analyst next to my name with the Dynasty Vipers? He goes, yeah, I'll go ahead. I go, yeah, that's right. I'm an analyst now. But that's my pettiness. It's right up there with Michael Thomas and even Michael Jordan, except I'm not good. There's a difference, right? They can actually back it up, but...
Michael Jordan on Twitter would have been something to see, man.
Wouldn't it?
Oh, man.
During his playing days, jeez.
I feel like Reggie Miller would have been pretty nice too, though. I feel like he would have got right back at him too.
Yeah,
that'd been fun to watch. That'd been fun.
They need to start their own like app where it's like 80s basketball stars, because they would just go and they would goon the crap on them. Like one of these guys from like 2010 would make a comment and they would just get like absolutely destroyed. Like they'd get eaten up by these guys. Like I love watching 80s basketball. I love watching Bill Lambert go up there. And also he's like choke slamming a guy going for a rebound. It's like, oh yeah.
Well, I hated the game, so don't bring up that.
I love watching Dirty Dennis Rodman go out with the Pistons and the Bad Boys there. I love watching Larry Bird. He like looked at you like he just dropped like 40. He's like, you know what? I'm kind of bored today. I think I'm only going to shoot with my left hand. Like, who does that? What kind of guy goes, you know what? I'm bored. I'm going to play a game and score 30-plus points using only my left hand. And he's right-handed. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Could you imagine these guys on social? Magic Johnson. Could you imagine Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan going at it on Twitter?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Pettiness. You want to talk about pettiness? Isaiah Thomas is right up there with Michael Jordan. The only thing is Michael Jordan's like, you know what, Dream Team, you want Michael Thomas? Or you want Isaiah Thomas? I'm not playing. Okay, Isaiah, you're out.
It's just, I think if social media existed back then, a lot of people would feel differently about some of these athletes. Yeah. Michael would probably have a lot more hate because he was protected back during that time, you know. So these stories weren't easily accessible. Nobody was. But if you had social media back when Jordan was playing, oh my goodness, or back when Dennis Rodman was doing all his crazy shit. I mean, it's just
that'd be great.
That would have been insane.
I think we missed out on a great opportunity there. Hey, could you imagine Lawrence Taylor on social media? Are you kidding me? Lawrence Taylor? He'd be putting orders for cocaine on Twitter. And people in New York would be bringing it to his house. You know what I mean?
How often would he be tweeting while doing coke?
Right.
All the time. I bet you'd be doing it all the time. He had like pictures of it going on, and it'd be fantastic. Oh boy, what am I going to do here?
Okay, you're back up.
Yuck.
No, hey, so yeah, what about Raquel Armstead right there? I mean, what happens with him? Is he going to get a chance to be the starting running back in Jacksonville?
I think he gets the first opportunity at it. I don't know if he holds it there. I think they're going to give it Divine Zigbo is going to get an opportunity, but I really love James Robinson. You're going to make me force me to take Raquel Armstead here because I'm sitting on him. I'm down about 18 seconds. I don't know if I can get rid of him in that short period of time. Wide receivers, hurry up, wide receivers. So, Michael Williams.
Yeah, you love
that though.
Huh? Yeah.
Gotta do it now. He's only 1 second.
Yep.
I don't know how bad that injury is, but
yeah, it's probably bad now that I just drafted him. I felt kind of like a pressure there.
Did Deontay Johnson go?
He went a while ago.
Okay.
Oh, I'm up again. I forget about these back-to-back picks. So I can still go back and get Armstead. James Washington's there. Randall Cobb could be a fantastic addition there. I think I should go with that running back, though, and get Armstead as my running back 5. Like that, I think
pretty nice.
I think that's a tough one not to do.
Mm-hmm. And it's PPR, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Raquel. Lock that in. Why not? You get Fournette and Raquel. This team's going to be incredibly awkward. They're not going to be very good in the dressing room, so.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that Jaguars backfield shakes out.
Well, let's talk about that for a second here. We've got a few seconds. I love Pod that he's in here right now, kind of giving me the updates as we're going along. You have 10 seconds to pick. Oh, never mind. We're a few seconds off. Someone's got to keep me straight as we're going.
Anywhere commenting during the draft. He should come on.
Oh, this is bad. But if it's me doing this and I'm struggling enough, he's trying to focus. He's trying to win this thing. He's in it to win it here, and I don't even know what my team looks like anymore. Let's see what it actually looks like. Let's pull it up here. Way over here, we've got Breeze at quarterback, Godwin, Galladay, McCaffrey, Fournette, and Ertz as your starting 5. That's a pretty good core. I'm okay with that. Montgomery and Henry Ruggs at flex. And then we've got the Ravens DST in there. We've got Darius Leonard for my linebacker or my defensive flex. Still the only IDP guy off the board.
So you got individual defensive player in team defense. Interesting.
I don't hate it. I really don't hate it right now. And if Armstead can hold on to that job in Jacksonville as the starting running back, now I'm not going to say he's going to hit 1,000 yards, but I don't think him rushing for 800 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns is out of the realm of possibilities there as what I drafted as my running back 5. So you can get that for a bye-week fifth, at least hopefully off the start of the season before they decide that he's not the best option there and James Robinson is.
Even though right now they got Chris Thompson listed as the second on their depth chart.
Yeah. Chris Thompson's going to give you about 2 weeks before he gets hurt, though.
No, always. It's always the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always. And it'll be 2 fantastic weeks as well.
It'll be 2 weeks of catching a total of about 12, 13 balls for, a buck something and maybe a TD.
So without looking, how old do you guys think Chris Thompson is?
Oh, probably 26, 27?
27.
29.
Yes, he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
He is 3 years older than Todd Gurley.
Yeah, that's
he's got one less than Todd Gurley.
I don't really. There was talk about him impacting Fournette. I never really understood that. I'm not sure he has much to do. Now, I will say there's a connection with Jay Gruden there, so maybe there's something to be said, but maybe that's where you hang your hat if you're a Chris Thompson believer. But I don't know, 29 years old, with his calling card being he's going to get out of the backfield and be elusive and catch the ball and make plays in space. I just don't know. He can't stay healthy enough for me to think he's going to be a factor.
He's just never healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, so when coaches bring in players that are from their past, like I feel like they just bring them in so that they can help the running backs, like for Chris Thompson, to help the running backs understand his system and maybe just get them going a little bit faster than what they really wanted to. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe for me, that's just the way I see it. Like I think we had Chase Daniel. We brought him with Matt Nagy, right? So I feel like maybe helping there. I don't know.
Oh. And how does Chase continue to get backup jobs? Man, that guy's getting paid.
He's flicking boogers on people, man.
He's another awful quarterback. Just your TV room is a mess when fans are clamoring for Chase Daniel.
Well, look, I'm hoping Matthew Stafford gets 16 games this year, but if not, we're going to see more of Chase Daniel this season.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I don't think I'm going out on a limb here. If Matt Stafford's playing 16 games, I bet he's QB5 this year.
I love Stafford. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
He's got all the talent around him, man.
This show could be renamed NFL's most hated. We've talked to Allen Robinson, we've talked to Leonard Fournette. Matt Stafford, is there a quarterback that gets more disrespect than Matt Stafford? What has he ever done? He's even a good guy. You know what I mean? He's not a dick like Aaron Rodgers, he's an asshole. You know what I mean? You hear rumors when you're good and stuff, I guess you can be, but he's not a very nice guy. And Matt Stafford, by all intents and purposes, is a fantastic guy. He goes out in the community, this and that, and then all of a sudden the media blows him up for a negative COVID test, and all of a sudden his wife is getting hate mail and all this other fun stuff that comes along with it because the NFL somehow botched it. And, of course, it's Matt Stafford who's in it. Because even the NFL hates Matt Stafford. But you look at what he's got. We talked about Golladay because I drafted him. Marvin Jones is another guy that's criminally underrated. You got DeAndre Swift. Kerryon Johnson's not dead. He's going to start the season getting probably the bulk of the carries weeks 1 and 2 before Swift takes over completely. He's got some Hawkinson. Hawkinson, there's Hawkinson every year. That's an offense that's pretty good. They've rebuilt. Please tell me that wasn't me that just timed out. No, we're good.
Oh, no, you're good.
And then you look at their offensive line, and they've actually drafted offensive line the last few years. They might have been a 5 and 11 last year? 5 and 12? 5 and 11? I don't know.
11.
It would have been
5 and 11. 5 games last year. I would not be shocked if Detroit is challenging for the division title this year. If Matt Stafford can stay healthy, that offense, with that offensive line, I think they can compete. Now, they're going to have questions on defense, especially against teams like Green Bay and their offense there. But the Bears' offense is not going to scare you. The Vikings, I'm sorry, you are running a rookie on one side. You, as well as talented as Justin Jefferson is, I don't know if he's quite Stephon Diggs yet. I think he'll be better than Diggs at some point, but I don't think he's there yet. So I think their offense took a bit of a step down. Oh, man, I'm going to go crazy here. I've been running my whole screen here, so Pod's been looking at exactly who I got on my queue list. I got to remember to take that down. So as you can see, I'm coming up. IDP guys don't score worth a lick. They're getting about 117 points for your top defensive linemen, as opposed to these running backs who are still on here. Darrell Henderson's estimated at 165.
But he's never going to see the field on your team. So, I mean, if you're going to get Myles Garrett, I mean, shoot. Get somebody to start.
Do you need a backup tight end with Zach Ertz?
Oh, I can go take a look at the tight end position, but I'm not too sure. There's nothing there. Maybe Jack Doyle. Jimmy Graham might be an option later. He's having a good camp from every report I've heard. I'm going to go crazy here now because I can now take Danielle Hunter, I think I'm going to take instead of Myles Garrett, and I think I'll follow it up with Buda Baker. And I got this top safety, I got the top defensive lineman, I got the top linebacker. Like,
Yep.
this seems like kind of a no-brainer to me here. Now the question is, so I'm going to go with Buda Baker because I know he's my number one safety. So the question is, either Myles Garrett or Danielle Hunter. Miles, Bosa, or Roquan. Yeah, he's kind of on the same thing. He knows what I'm talking about, going with IDP studs here.
Could you not get Miles and Hunter right here and then come back around and grab 2 safeties?
I could, but you know what? I don't mind that idea. I'm going to buy myself some time. I'm going to look at exactly the situation here as far as no, you only need one defensive lineman to start, and then one flex. So I'm definitely going to go with that Buda Baker,
Gotcha,
Myles Garrett combination, or Danielle Hunter. Now I'm going to hide my screen and start playing around over here. Because that's a pretty I know they don't score as well in here, but Leonard, Baker, Hunter is a pretty solid core to build around.
That's disgusting.
Especially, and you know what? I'm sitting here at the tight end position. Like you mentioned, that might be the next spot to get that backup. And Herb Smith is there, Jack Doyle, Ian Thomas, a lot of people are high on. Eric Ebron is still there, which I will definitely look at as an option. Jimmy Graham, as we talked about. So there's still some options there at the tight end position that I can tap in the later round. I'm not even sure what round we are anymore. But I'm definitely not hating the start here. Maybe grab another linebacker and a tight end in the next follow-up. You start 2 tight ends and 2 linebackers and a flex. So,
and did you have any wide receiver depth behind your top 3?
Wide receiver, I'm actually wide receiver is Godwin, Galladay, Henry Ruggs, Mike Williams. So I've got 4 right now. And at the wide receiver flex position, there's going to be a good drop off there, but it's not incredibly barren right now. That's what's left there kind of at the top of the wide receiver position. Sammy Watkins, N'Keal Harry, Jalen Reagor, Pittman, Tate, Renfro, Curtis Samuel, James Washington. So there's some good upside guys there, which is, I think, what you're kind of looking for at this stage is that upside player.
Is Edwards still there?
You know what? I really hope he isn't because I will draft him if he is. I'm hoping he's not because the whole Ruggs-Edwards thing is – yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, I saw him there, yeah.
Yeah, and if he's still there, if him and Reagor are still there, that's going to be interesting for me. So, funny story, and I caught heat for this when I did my rookie rankings. Bryan Edwards is the number 5 wide receiver in the rookie rankings. You know who he was above?
Who?
Yeah, you do, Cal. You know exactly who I put him above.
Who?
Yeah, I did. Well, you know who. You know I will put a Bayou Bengal down my rankings as far as I possibly can. I had Bryan Edwards ahead of Justin Jefferson. I'm a little crazy that way. So I think more than anything it's because I do this show with Calvin all the time, and I hear Justin Jefferson. I hear Joe Burrow. I hear Clyde Edwards-Helaire all the time, and Joe Brady. I'm like, you know what? Out of spite, I'm putting them down in my rankings. I don't care. They're my rankings. You can't do nothing about it. It's not that I'm petty or anything, right?
Well, look, you can't blame me for getting excited about literally the best offense in the history of college football. I mean, those are some pretty exciting guys that they had there. And then they wound up in pretty good positions in the NFL, too. I mean, I'm certainly not the only one excited about those guys. But so make the case that how Bryan Edwards becomes a bigger part of the Oakland Raiders offense than Justin Jefferson eventually does, let's say over like a 3-year time span.
Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh, excuse me.
Well, there's nothing saying right now that Bryan Edwards is not the number 1 option in their passing game. Henry Ruggs is Henry Ruggs. He could fill that Nicole Hardman, stretch that field, Derek Carr is going to take a shot every once in a while, but Mr. Consistency, the guy who's going to get all the rep, is going to be that Bryan Edwards, where Justin Jefferson still has to answer Adam Thielen for the next few years. Now, Bryan Edwards is a very interesting guy. When we talk about his college, he was good for so long that we nitpicked him till he was bad. He broke out at age 18 with South Carolina. That's saying something. When you break out at 18 with South Carolina, this isn't LSU. This isn't 24 pro players getting drafted from your offense and your defense. This is South Carolina. And he was so good, 18 years old. We're talking about him, we're hyping him, we're putting him up there in our Debbie rankings. And then the second year, he's just as good. Third year, now we're starting to nitpick. When you get to that third year, now we're starting to pick you apart and find any kind of weakness. And then also, he has a foot injury. Let's drop him. He's horrible. We don't want him. Now he comes to the camp, and he has probably been the Raiders' top receiver in camp. Opportunity is what gets you placed above more than anything else. And I think the opportunity Terrell Williams was never a threat to Bryan Edwards. Let's get that right off the get-go. Never a threat. He was going to be there maybe 1 year. This just kind of, I think Edwards was going to beat Williams out this year anyway. So I have my belief in what he is. I think opportunity right now is a little bit better than that of what Justin Jefferson's going to see right now. And I think both teams, let's be honest, I think both Minnesota and Vegas are going to struggle a little bit. They're going to be on that 8-8 kind of bubble, both teams. So they're going to be behind. The game script is going to be all over the place for both of them. They're very similar. Both have good running backs, Jacobs versus Cooks. They both have two good receivers. Both have good tight end options. So they're very, very similar in how they're constructed. But I think Edwards has a better shot of being the number one than Justin Jefferson does right now for the next 2 or 3 years.
See,
That's all that for you?
I don't really do. I like Edward, but I don't really think there's much holding back Jefferson as well. I mean, he's probably their clear number 2. I don't really. I mean, you got Irv Smith there and the tight ends, but they're not going to get that much work. So after Thielen, that has to be Justin Jefferson. I mean, no.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk too about Olabisi Johnson too stepping up in camp. And I mean, apparently he's been showing out. So on Snapchat, I always follow, like, I'll see like a Minnesota Vikings just to see Justin Jefferson because I had him ranked number 2 behind CeeDee Lamb. I loved him that much. I loved his route running. I loved everything about his game. And once that news came out about Olabisi, there was no more Justin Jefferson. So I don't know if that means anything social media wise. They're trying to pump up Olabisi or what. But I think Justin Jefferson still has a role in that team. And I mean, but that offense, they want to run the ball. They want to pound the football. So, I mean, it worked out with Stephon Diggs and Thielen, though. So, I mean, there's a chance. I mean, the offensive coordinator is different. So we'll see. But I really do love Justin Jefferson. He was one of my top guys. And if you listen to the Dynasty Rewind, Porkman loves Van Jefferson. And I love Justin Jefferson. And Van Jefferson showing out. But we made a bet. And I'm still rolling with my boy Justin.
Well, I think you're going to win that bet. And so,
yeah.
BC Johnson, he outsnapped Adam Thielen last year. He's not a thing. Like, he plays on the outside on an offense that's going to throw the ball a very small amount of time. Like, and they're not really even going to look at him. Like, yes, he's getting a lot of run with the first team, but that doesn't ultimately lead to targets or opportunities for him in the same way. Like, it jumped out to me last year watching, I look at snaps and targets and things like that during the season. And BC Johnson was always on the field, but that doesn't mean he was getting opportunities. I don't expect that to change this year. Certainly, they addressed the position, and they brought in a guy. Adam Thielen's 30 years old. They got rid of Stephon Diggs. Justin Jefferson was not as good on the outside for LSU, but they brought him inside, and he was insane. Mm-hmm. And he's going to, sooner than later, get an opportunity to be in that prime position in a Gary Kubiak offense now that is going to ultimately have a lot of targets out of that position. Bryan Edwards, there's a lot of hype for him. And look, look, Coach, you know a lot more about the college game than I do. And, I didn't know who Bryan Edwards was 6 months ago. But I did know who Henry Ruggs was because he was a superstar, and he was a superstar at Alabama. And like, there are a lot of people who maybe didn't watch SEC football as much who don't realize just how good Henry Ruggs is. I think he is very underrated. And look, the Raiders took him in the first round. They didn't take Edwards until pick number 81. Henry Ruggs is going to get, like you said, like that kind of thing is going to lead to a lot of opportunity. Darren Waller's going to, he's probably your best bet for being 1 or 2 in targets. Ruggs absolutely should be right there with him, 1 or 2 in targets. Edwards, is he 3 on the team? Or does, like, is that best case scenario for him as being number 3 this season? That's assuming he picks up the offense well?
I think there's a possibility he finishes 3. I figure it's no different than even in Minnesota that we talked Jefferson. When you get into the red zone, you get your points in the touchdown with how that's going to work out. And they do have both Irv Smith and they do have Kyle Rudolph still that has red zone targets that you can't discredit. No different than Darren Waller. And even third and Renfro there is going to get he's going to get some PPR as well in Vegas.
Oh, really?
I think they're very similar situations. I just like how it's shaping up for Edwards a little bit more than Jefferson right now.
Yeah, that's right. See, I forgot about Renfro. So yeah, like 4th probably on the team in targets is his best. And they're going to turn.
Oh, don't forget Josh Jacobs. He might be 5th in targets, and then you throw in Jalen Richard. He might be 6th in targets. No, pump the brakes. Brian Edwards is going to flirt with 1,000 yards this year. Mark my words. I don't know if he'll get to 1,000, but I think he's going to flirt with it.
Yeah, and I'm not the biggest fan of Henry Ruggs either. I mean, he was the 3rd best wide receiver on his team last year, behind Devontae Smith and Judy. So I mean, I think he's more of a project than what people really think. I think he's got the speed, but I still think he's a little bit raw on everything else, in my opinion.
And that's been my argument on Ruggs too. That's the reason I'm not as high as others are on Ruggs. And the Raiders, I mean, even though it's, obviously different staff, but I don't taking them in the first round didn't change my opinion. I was actually like my guy was CeeDee Lamb, and I for sure thought they were gonna go CeeDee Lamb. And when they went Ruggs, I was in my house shocked at that one.
As a Raiders fan, I was sitting actually in this seat, and I was doing something with DFD and IDP guys. We were doing a live stream.
I was on with you.
And I'm watching the screen, and I went completely white, and I thought I was about to cry right there. I did not have Ruggs in my top 4. I had, like I said, he was not. I had Rager as my number 1, Lamb at 2, Judy at 3, and I thought these were fantastic options. I thought if you want to go for that burner, and I know his 40 didn't show it, but I'll tell you what, you put that game film on, dude was hitting 22 miles per hour, Jalen Rager, and on those smart gen stats. You want a difference maker down the field, CeeDee Lamb was that guy who's going to make those contested catches. You want a route runner that's refined, you go with Jerry Jeudy. I did not think they'd go with Ruggs. So I just kind of dropped. I eventually warmed up to it, trying to tell myself that this is, a field stretcher. And then when they brought in Brian Edwards, I'm like, okay, now it kind of makes sense. But they did not know they were getting Brian Edwards when they got Brian Edwards. That fell into their lap. Mm-hmm. So I was absolutely distraught about the pick, and I wish I could find the screenshot. It was like,
and it was just, Alabama. That was just a stacked offense, man. And I thought Ruggs benefited by with the guys around him. In my opinion, if you were to ask me who can be a true number 1, like he's probably my least favorite one that I truly believe can be like a number 1 guy in the NFL. So I just didn't understand how you can pass on other guys that were obviously number 1s on their teams and proved it. So it's not to say he's a bad player. I'm not saying I hated Ruggs. I was just shocked that he was taken over all those other guys. I'm still shocked at it talking about it right now.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I finally started. I went through the 7 stages of grief that day, in about 2 in the 1 round, because there's only 1 round to get over yourself, right? On day 1, and I was okay. Is this going to be Darius Hayward Bay, or is this going to be Cliff Branch? That was kind of where I was going with this. Henry Ruggs, the Raiders channeled their inner L. Davis on this pick and going with speed. But I've watched as a Raiders fan that makes some pretty boneheaded picks, even picking guys from LSU on their team with the first overall pick. Yeah, that's right. I blame LSU. Ooh, this guy can throw the ball 70 yards in his underwear from his knees. Let's sign him. Sounds like a great idea, Jamarcus Russell. Anyway. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like
we didn't think he was good either. So
no, he was another guy overhyped like Joe Burrow. Anyway, you've got on one hand, you've got Darius Hayward Bay as kind of that. Okay, speed kills. We drafted him in the first round, bust. And then you got Cliff Branch, who should be in the Hall of Fame, as the other speed receiver in Raiders history. So it's like, which one are you going to be? Because you have to be one or the other. There's no in between. And for Raiders fans, for me, that pick to justify it, you better be closer to Cliff Branch, because there's at least 3 better options I felt at that pick. And I hope he proves it together. I hope he turns out fantastic. But you talk about him being the 3rd best receiver. I think Jalen Waddle was even better than him. So it's really kind of – it was difficult to kind of – I'm still trying to process it now. Thanks, guys, for bringing that back up.
I can tell.
And all these
I was just getting over myself.
All these wide receivers are going to be tied together now, right? I mean, it's kind of like when people talk about Mitch Trubisky, you got to talk about Mahomes and Watson, because it's like, look at what you guys did. So this Ruggs pick is going to be compared to the other wide receivers that were taken after him. So it's going to whatever CeeDee Lamb does, whatever Jerry Jeudy does, all these guys are going to be tied together, and there's going to be criticism if Ruggs is the worst one again from that entire group.
Okay, so I got about 20 seconds here to pick Eifert, Irv Smith, Jack Doyle, Ian Thomas, or Eric Ebron.
Oh, man.
I know Jack Doyle would be Porkman's pick. He loves that guy.
Yeah, I do too.
Here you go, Porkman. I have 2 seconds left.
Hey.
We'll call it Jack Doyle, Charles Porkley. You know what I mean? We gotta get these in there.
There you go.
Philip Rivers loves himself a tight end.
Yeah,
he does, and there's going to be options there. I think Trey Burton has value there too. I think they're going to use both of them.
Well, something happened to Burton, right?
Yeah, he got hurt. I don't know the severity of it, but from what I read, it did not sound too great.
Oh, come on. He's like one of my only tight ends in one of my major leagues, where it's like 32-man rosters, and he's like my only tight end. You have to pick every position.
Oh, yeah.
Or 32, not 32-man rosters, sorry, 32-team leagues.
Oh,
those are crazy.
All right, so wide receiver, I got 10 seconds. I think I'm going to leave either Visca or Randall Cobb.
Love Cobb.
I do love Cobb. I really love Cobb there. He had almost 1,000 yards last year, and I got 2 seconds to pick again.
The quietest 1,000-yard season.
Yeah. Exactly. And he's in a position right now. Let's talk about Randall Cobb since he's on the screen. He's got Will Fuller on one side. He's got Kenny Stills as a 4th receiver, whatever you want to call it. And Brandon Cooks. I love Brandon Cooks, by the way. Absolutely love Brandon Cooks. I think he's going to eat. I think Fuller's going to get hurt. Randall Cobb, even with Michael Gallup and Amari Cooper, damn near had 1,000 yards last year. You know what I'm saying? Now he's competing for targets with Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, who we know is not going to play a full 16. He is a sneaky 1,000-yard receiver, like Shevin just said. Quietest 1,000 yards you'll ever hear. Yeah. I think he had 80 reception. Like, the numbers were absolutely unreal with him. And now he gave away. Pod's going to take Visca on because now he's listening to me talk, and he knows it's coming.
All right, boys.
Okay.
I gotta hop off. I gotta go eat some dinner. I haven't eaten yet, so it was a blast, boys. Hopefully, I can hop on with you guys again. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for
thanks for coming. You want to plug the rewind there a little bit here before you take off?
Yeah, so if you listen to Dynasty Rewind, we're hopping on Tuesdays and Fridays, usually about, I think, 6:30 Pacific time or 5:30, something around there. You can follow the Dynasty Rewind podcast. And, Matt, you actually have a shirt coming your way soon. You won that shirt contest, so congratulations, bud.
Does it come with sleeves or without the sleeves?
Without. You're just gonna be
Nice.
rocking those big guns, baby.
I was so disappointed that Beasley got the hoodie because I wanted to chop the sleeves off the hoodie and go Bill Check style on this here.
Oh, that would have been great. All right, boys, I gotta go eat some food. I'm starving.
All right, man. Have
All
a
right,
good one.
take care.
Boys.
So, Roberto, you want to comment on the Houston offense?
No, but I agree with the Randall Cobb thing though. I think that's just going to be a sneaky, cheap way to get. I mean, that he's going to be a safety blanket for him. Will Fuller, you count down the days until he gets hurt. I mean, that's just who he is at this point. Something's going to happen. And man, Randall Cobb is just going to eat in that offense. That is a very cheap way in a PPR draft to just get some cheap points, man.
Well, it's funny because I'm in another PPR league. We did our auction last night, and I'm the worst person for looking for value when it comes to an auction. And I did the Kings Classic, and I wrote an article. You guys, I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it, how that draft all worked out, and how my patience for once in my life actually paid off because I'm not a very patient individual. But last night we did a bit of an auction draft, and my team wasn't very strong to begin with, but I really attacked the wide receiver position in the draft. And my cap is $230. So we got $230. I got Randall Cobb for $5. I got Brandon Cooks for 15. I added Corey Davis for 9. Just why not?
Why not?
Adam, give him a shot. I got Julian Edelman for 12.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the guys I add. And of course, I had to stay on brand. I got Josh Gordon for $1.
Just in case. That's the maybe, the dart throw.
I own more Josh Gordon than what is healthy for a normal individual to have. But I'm looking at that. You know what? Brandon Cooks, Julian Edelman, and even Randall Cobb, I've got them as underrated receivers in a wide receiver 3 area that are going to give you potentially wide receiver 2 production that you're getting much later in your drafts. So why wouldn't you I don't even know what round we're in. Must have been round 19, I guess, is where I got Randall Cobb in this thing. Round 19.
Yeah, that's great value.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't go for that value. It kind of blows my mind. And now with the rest, I think I've got 5 roster spots left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll probably go for high upside players.
Mm.
Take some shots on some guys like a James Washington. Maybe a Corey Davis gets on track this year. Maybe he gets that Devontae Parker 4th, 5th year breakout kind of status here because that would be fantastic.
Davis is just that guy that's better for his actual NFL team than he is for fantasy.
Another guy I like as a late guy is Miles Boykin.
Yeah.
We've heard good things, so I'm not going to. Well, I think Pod logged off here. I don't know exactly where he's picking, but I think a Visca Miles Boykin back-to-back pick might be a pretty good option here. Lots of upside there. Pittman's there still, so I really like Visca, especially with Fournette being gone. He's kind of that unicorn. I think he's going to see those touches in the run game. He's going to get involved in the passing game. His numbers and everything he did at Colorado were fantastic. So there's a lot of love for Visca for me, as long as he can stay healthy. Because we talked about this before. It's not that you're injured with Chase. I don't know if you caught me along with Chase on fantasy football intervention. There's the guys that we consider injury prone. Usually the guys that are missing games. But the kicker is there's guys who are probably injury prone that are playing games, which is even worse, right? Mm-hmm. Guys who are constant. Amari Cooper last year, he might not have missed the games, but he played hurt for 3 or 4 games, which hurts your value even more so than maybe most guys. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're going to go with Visca here, some high upside. We're going to go back over to
I do like Pittman, though.
Pittman's definitely tempting. There's no doubt about that. But I'm going to go and just kind of – Cameron
forget,
Jordan.
I was going to say people forget who the first rookie that the Colts took, the first offensive weapon that they took in the 2020 NFL draft is, and it wasn't Jonathan Taylor.
No.
It was Michael Pittman.
Pittman, yeah.
And they took a chance that, hey, we're only going to be able to get one of these guys, potentially. Somebody else could jump up and take the other one. And given those options, they took Pittman. And, obviously it worked out and they got Jonathan Taylor later. But, I think they're going to have a role for Pittman. As long as he can acclimate and get up to speed pretty quickly, I think he'll be
there you go.
Interesting this year.
There it is. Yeah.
I locked in Pittman for you.
Yeah.
And just fits in well. He provides everything that, a guy like T.Y. Hilton gets you. It's just a polar opposite players. And I definitely feel like he's going to end up carving out a role with that team right away.
Yeah, and the one thing, we talk about Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers has a type, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these quarterbacks have a type. Phillip Rivers' type is a Tyrell Williams type. He loved Tyrell Williams. He loved going to him, probably more than what's healthy. Well, guess what? Michael Pittman is a big receiver as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's got the size. He's got that red zone ability as well. So he kind of fits what Phillip Rivers likes to do. And Phillip Rivers is not exactly the most accurate passer anymore. So having that big wingspan that Pittman has will be beneficial to Phillip Rivers and the Colts. Not to mention, Phillip Rivers is actually going to have time this year behind that Colts offensive line, something he hasn't had in a long time.
And he's going to be dumping the ball off to Nyheim Hines a lot too.
It's those go up and get it wide receivers, and that's Pittman's game, man.
Yep.
And I just feel like at this stage in Phillip Rivers' career, I don't think he meshes that well with T.Y. Hilton. I know he's going to be their default number one, but
anybody to compare that he's ever worked with. I mean, like a field stretching kind of
speed guy,
not as big.
I'm drawing a blank. There was a guy there about 2 years ago.
Vincent Brown is the only name coming to my mind. Like, I don't know if you remember him. He briefly was.
You know what? I like Vincent Brown. I was San Diego State, I believe, is where he came out of.
Very poor hands.
Who was that now? Another slot. He was kind of like Taylor Gabriel, but what the heck was his name? I'm drawing a blanket.
I can't even.
What's that?
Eddie Royal.
No, it wasn't it?
That was
Eddie Royal.
That was Jay Cutler's guy back in the day.
That's right. That's what it was. That's right. Yeah, you'll have to look that up.
I'm on right now, so just kind of keep talking here.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see. We're kind of touching a little bit on
I'm trying to
San Diego there. I'm curious how you're a big Mike Williams guy, Coach, but curious to see, like, with him hurt, that guy that's been really interesting to me is Guyton. Is it Jalen Guyton? Is that his name?
Yeah, Jalen Guyton out of Texas, Mean Green there.
I like his athleticism. He's getting run with the first team. Like, he seems like he has kind of ingratiated himself to the coaching staff like fairly quickly there. He's not getting like hardly any buzz at all. It looks like he was a 4.4 40 guy, 89th percentile on his speed score. Like, his agility was pretty good. Like, his catch radius is in the 86th percentile. Like, he just seemed like he's got some things to him that if he gets a little bit of run and a little bit of opportunity, he might be okay.
Oh, boy. I just caught something here. I'm glad I caught it now in the 21st round. I don't have a backup quarterback.
Ooh.
Well, what are your options?
Mitch Trubisky.
Ring it up. Put it on the board.
I may make a nice pick for my boy there, Sal Pal, and give a little tribute to Alex Smith even in this draft. But I do have some options here. There's some people ahead of me, but I was like, oh, crap. I need kind of quarterbacks here because Derek Carr would have been my go-to for QB2, but he's got the same bye week as Drew Brees, who apparently I drafted earlier tonight.
Oh, Derek Carr still on the board?
Yeah, he's getting disrespected left, right, and center, man. I may just take Derek Carr and see if I can make a trade with somebody after week 3 or 4. You know, I got both quarterbacks are available, but like Carr needs to get some love, man.
I was surprised how high I had him ranked on my QB rankings. Like, if nothing else, they went out and got him a lot of weapons this offseason, and he's gonna have an opportunity.
Well, Carr just came off the board, so I'm looking at probably Teddy Bridgewater or Jimmy Garoppolo. Pod's asking which QB. Tracy Walker's probably going to give you the most consistency. Keanu Neal and Jonathan Abram are probably your bigger thumpers that are going to give you a little bit more production. Normally, I would say Keanu Neal, but his injury history scares me off. I know Abram got hurt last year. I would say if you're going to redraft, Jonathan Abram's probably the DB you want in this situation. And that's non-Raider homerism there either. So,
with a league like that, are you though only starting one safety? Are you kind of drafting for upside?
For the most part, I guess you are. I always draft for consistency. I like my tackle guys. Guys are gonna get those tackles to give me that number. I don't like the boom or bust weeks there. So Teddy Bridgewater is going to be my quarterback. It's him, Darnold, Haskins. Yeah, it's Bridgewater, and it's not even close. I'll give you a kind of a look at how ugly it is. Yeah, it's got to be Bridgewater here. There's no doubt about it.
Speaking of guys that are hated on, that's one right there.
Teddy B.
Too much hate for him. Yeah, see, well, I guess a lot of times I draft for consistency too, and you know your guy Ahmad here is saying drafting for a high floor, and I certainly get that. Like there's a lot of times where I'll think about that too. If you're starting one safety, you know you mentioned the injury history for Neal. What would be there on the waiver wire that you could back him up? Like, could Neal plus whatever you would have on the waiver wire if he missed a couple of games be as good as those other options? And obviously, you know the safety position a lot better than me.
Yeah, so this sounds like, for the most part, with this league, defensive players are devalued considerably as far as it goes. So you could probably get safeties and these high-end players still off the waiver wire and plug and play as you go. Kind of talking to Lamont there, it's kind of like I could probably get Jonathan Abram off the waivers. We're in the 23rd round here right now. So I only got one pick left, and there's still a handful of IDP players that are absolutely fantastic value here. So, yeah, I may double tap on – I don't even know where I'm going to go on here. I might just take Jonathan Abram just out of spite now. Oh, I gotta hide this again. But yeah, we've got one draft pick left, and right now, I need a kicker. Oh, I guess I should probably get that, huh? So right now, minus kicker, the starting lineup looks like Breeze, Godwin, Galladay, McCaffrey, Fournette, Ertz, Montgomery, and Ruggs. My team defense is the Ravens with Darius Leonard at the flex, Buda Baker at DB, Donnell Hunter at D-line, Jalen Smith at linebacker, Deion Jones at linebacker. And then when you go to the bench, it looks like it's Adrian Peterson, Mike Williams, Raquel Armstead, Jack Doyle, Randall Cobb, Visca Chenault, Michael Pittman Jr., Teddy Bridgewater, and Miles Boykin. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I've drafted worse.
That's pretty stellar.
I like it.
Now I got to land that last pick, Mr. Irrelevant, as my kicker.
If you win the league, give me all the credit. If you lose, blame Calvin.
Yeah, that's, you know what? I might just blame Calvin regardless of what happens. You know what? I could end up winning this league. I'm like, you know what? I should have went 16-0. Damn it, Calvin.
Right.
It's probably
why did you tell me
LSU guy.
Raquel Armstead. God,
Yeah, right.
stupid.
Yeah, I forgot that's you that told me that. And I can always fight him because I got Deion Jones on my team. And he's from LSU, so I can always blame it on LSU too.
That's true.
Man.
That's true. Hey, so
Roll
Jamar
Tide.
Chase opted out, huh? What do you think about Jamar Chase opting out?
I think it's a good business decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate it as a
There's
fan,
no
but I think you're right.
guarantee college football games are going to get played this year. They're talking about it. We've seen a couple games already. What's the point of risking yourself on a season that may not happen? If you know you're going in the first round, which Jamar Chase is, he's a top 10 pick right now. Why would I risk blowing out my knee in a season that may or may not happen?
Nothing to gain.
You've already put everything you need to on film. The scouts already know what you can do. I'm going to just touch base on this one real quick here. Jamie Newman opted out. Newman opted out not because of COVID, but because he was getting beat up by JT Daniels. I don't think Newman was going to be the quarterback in Georgia. I think the Dogs did him wrong. I don't know why you'd get him to transfer over from Wake Forest and then bring a USC transfer over as well. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Newman's a good quarterback. I think he would have been in the top 5 quarterbacks for me this year coming out. But yeah, we're going to see more and more guys make these business decisions, and you can't blame these guys. We're talking about their future on the line here. And if you know, now on the flip side, there's going to be some guys that are going to get some bad advice to opt out. And we're going to see guys that probably should play that aren't going to. We see this every year, though. You're like, ooh, why is this guy coming into the draft? Why is he coming out early? It's probably not in his best interest. You see him go down that board. It's going to be really interesting to see who comes out, who doesn't come out. And I'm waiting for guys like Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence to go, you know what? We're out. They got nothing to prove. They got nothing to play for. They're both top 2 picks in the draft. Why play it? Why risk it? Why maybe even get a concussion, put an extra concussion on my injury list? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, one of my favorites. I mean, I love Chase. Obviously, he was always the consensus number 1. But man, it hurt too with the Justin Ross news because I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of his, and I'm hoping that he makes a full recovery and can get back to playing at the level that he was playing at. So that one bummed me when I heard that one.
Yeah, and we're going to see things happen, and it's going to be we're dealing with young men's lives here and their livelihood going forward. So, you know what? If they want to opt out, and if they're getting a first-round grade or even a second-round grade, there's no point in playing the season. And it pains me to say this because I love watching college football. It's my favorite thing to do on a Saturday. And I'm like, you know what? As someone who's played the game and not even at a competitive level, I took a lot of nicks and bumps and bruises in my short period of time. Why take these additional ones that could be for naught? You know, if we're in week 3 and I blow out my knee and the season ends on week 4, that's not a good thing. You look at some of these guys that play bowl games. Jalen Smith, luckily he's recovered from his nasty knee injury years ago.
How about Bryce Love?
Bryce Love killed himself. He killed himself there taking that injury.
He still can't get an opportunity now.
Georgia running back there, the same thing happened with him, right? Took a big spill there a couple years back. So guys are opting out of bowl games, and now, which we always kind of joke about, like, you know, what are you a team player? Are you not a team player? You know, it's easy for us to make these judgment calls and whatnot, but reality is, let's take a quarterback with a week 13, kicker with a week 13 bye. That means I'll have him for a while.
Talking about taking those risks, that was the one that always sticks out for me, and is going back a ways. And I would advise anybody who would ever, should I play or not? If you're ever going to be a top draft pick, you're guaranteed, especially you're guaranteed to be a first round draft pick in the NFL. You go in the NBA, any league, you go. But I remember Willis McGahee.
Oh,
and because I remember that's when that talk was really coming out, like, he was going to play that game, and there was like there was some people mentioning, the possibility of getting hurt, and then what happened to his leg And I was just like, that's really where it first hit me, where I was like, man, you just lost so much money on that one play.
Yep.
Who was the 49ers draft pick that he had that gruesome injury in college, and they took him, and he sat on
South
their
Carolina, Lattimore?
Lattimore, yes.
Marshawn Lattimore?
No, that's the
not Marshawn Lattimore. That's the corner, right?
yeah.
He's a Lattimore there. He played for South Carolina. He's coaching South Carolina now.
Let's see.
Can't remember the first name.
Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah, I knew it was a Lattimore. That's close.
Yeah, Marcus Lattimore. Yeah, you're right. South Carolina. I didn't remember that detail, but yeah, that was a guy that, I mean, yeah, if he could have come out the year before, it's so funny because the NFL is so physical, and so like I understand having a 3-year wait after graduating high school, but there are other situations like this. Like you can't tell me that Jamar Chase he couldn't be competing in the NFL this season, and then you look at running backs like, Jonathan Taylor took a lot of pounding last season. It'd have been a lot better for his career if he was doing that in the NFL.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like I know what's the NBA got, a one and done option?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't consider the NBA as nearly as physical as the pounding you're taking another year in college football. If you're a freshman and you absolutely light it up, why wouldn't you be allowed to come out? I don't understand that. So I guess money for the colleges kind of comes into account. Education comes into account. So that's the end game roster there, kind of thrown up on the side. You can definitely tell I have an IDP background because I couldn't resist IDP players still sitting where they were, even though the scoring probably does not line up favorably for me. But I really don't care.
And the most recent one of how easily this can go. Remember Cardale Jones?
Mm-hmm.
I remember he had that year in Ohio State, and a bunch of people had him as a first round, second round type.
Who did Cardale Jones beat out for the starting quarterback position at Ohio State?
No, there was a point where he was considered going to be a top. He had that little Cinderella run, and there were some people that were enamored with the physical attributes that he had, and there were people that were like, all right, NFL scouts were drooling over this guy. He decides to go back to Ohio State, and that was it for him. He got exposed.
Yep. He was I was just trying to look up. I can't remember. He was like pretty fast, if I remember right, for a quarterback. And let's see. Yeah. Okay. So a 4.81 40-yard dash. So yeah, I guess that's pretty good. He's one of those that I wonder if he would have come out under today's game as opposed to when he did. Like I even think about like Tyrod Taylor. He's finally getting an opportunity. He's a little bit older now, but like if he was just coming out right now, I wonder if he would get a little bit more of that. Everybody's trying to find the next Lamar Jackson, and could he, or Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen? It's the reason why I think Bill Belichick is interested in bringing in Cam Newton. It's the reason why Jalen Hurts gets drafted in the second round. It's the reason why Taysom Hill is having an opportunity, to potentially take over for Drew Brees in New Orleans. These head coaches, really, these offensive minds, they want one of those guys that create those mismatches on defense. And like some of those college guys coming out a little bit later who struggle with accuracy. But I mean, look, Josh Allen things were pretty successful for him. Lamar Jackson's not known for his accuracy. There's a lot of things that you can do,
Not known for his accuracy, but he's still more accurate than Trubisky.
15 games, 17 touchdowns.
Oh man!
But is Nick Foles the answer? Nick Foles has never done nothing outside of Philadelphia. You know what I mean? Like How did the Bears season start? They traded for Nick Foles. Like that's got to be a bad indication of how things could end up playing out.
And they rushed out and signed Jimmy Graham.
And who's been your best player in camp so far?
Both of these having a great camp, though. He's rejuvenated.
Doesn't that say something when Jimmy Graham is like getting the buzz in camp? Like, doesn't that tell you? Isn't that a little bit of a bad omen?
And the thing is, he looks so bad in Green Bay.
Oh,
I mean,
he hasn't looked good since he was in first 2 years in New Orleans.
It was just bad.
That's what I wrote in my little preview. I was like, they rushed out and signed Jimmy Graham despite apparently having seen him play last year.
Yeah,
they still signed him for some reason. I don't.
So we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah,
I think Mitch will be the week 1 starter. By the way,
do you?
I think so too. I think Trubisky is the better option between the two, and I'm hoping he's got a little bit of fire lit under his ass and bringing in Nick Foles. Usually, I'm a proponent of follow the money, and obviously Nick Foles invested that money into. But I still think if Nagy can get his ego out of the way, because I'll say it, I think it's his ego that's hurting their offense. If he can get his ego out of the way and let Trubisky move that pocket, I think the the Bears will be more successful as an offense. That all said, we're pushing that 2-hour mark. I know Calvin's already looking at the clock, and
I was looking at the fact that the Rockets just beat the
they did.
Yeah, Game 7.
Yeah.
So I just noticed the score on my screen there. So that's
interesting.
Yeah, James Harden versus LeBron James in the next round.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I got no one to cheer for over there, man. I can't cheer for the Lakers. That's just wrong on so many levels.
I just cheer for good basketball.
I can't really cheer for James Harden because, it's still James Harden no matter how you look at it.
True.
The Heat knocked off I really should be paying attention.
2-0. The Bucks are in 2-0.
Mm-hmm. That Heat team is good too. I like watching that Heat team play.
They built their team is perfectly built around Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
I mean,
3-point shooters.
Yeah, a lot of shooters, and they got some real good shooters too. I mean, some of these guys. Yeah. It's just a perfect team. They kind of remind me, like a Pistons type squad, where they're not filled with any major stars. Even Jimmy Butler is kind of. I don't think a lot of people would have him in their top 10 or anything like that. But it's just a team that's well built, man, and they play hard.
Yep.
And
and they're fearless. Like they got nothing to lose. They're just like, hey, we're gonna go out and a team that's gonna shoot. I don't even know how many threes they put up, like a ridiculous amount. I mean, look, you're gonna have a chance, and I mean that Bucks team is good, but it's fun to see the Heat. And yeah, we're talking about basketball here, Coach. How do you feel about that?
I feel we're about 3 minutes away from 2 hours, and we're losing our mind right now.
Oh boy! All right, fellas. Well, it was fun.
Yep,
it was. Hey, Roberto, you want to kind of give everyone a little bit of where to find you kind of thing and what you're doing these days, and no one cares about me or Calvin.
Well, it's the Viper family, But they can find me. Yes, my Twitter handle right there at @RS_smooth. And obviously pushing content out with the Viper family at Dynasty Vipers, and hopefully I'll be able to get some time and keep pumping out some stuff, articles and things of that nature. So here's to a good year.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're going to be able to join us more and more here after next week. So
yes, sir.
We're probably going to adjust our time. This is getting a little late, I think, for Calvin. It's only 10:30 my time, but it's about 11:30, I think, for you. Both of you, I think, are at 11:30, right? So
yeah,
we'll probably here in a couple weeks make sure we're bringing this time down a little bit. So
All right. Well, you guys have a good Labor Day weekend.
All right. Well, for Roberto, for Calvin, I'm Dingus, and we go.